Hey guys, in this course you will learn how to create your very own Flappy Bird game in Unity. You will learn all the basic components of a Flappy Bird game, such as bird motion, pipe obstacles, and game over functionality. On top of that, you will learn how to add store component where you can use coins to unlock new birds. Throughout Unity, you will learn how to add navigation for the main menu and store scene. We will also be going over coding in C# to make the game come alive with multiple functions. See you in the lectures! Alright, so in this section we're going to set up everything we need for our game. We're going to start off creating the 2D project, then we're going to go ahead and create all the folders we're going to be using, and then last but not least we're going to add the correct camera size. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, so in Unity Hub we're going to create our project. We're going to go to the top right button, New Project, click on that, then we're going to let it load, and then select the 2D core right here. We're going to go ahead and give it a name. I'm going to call this Flappy Bird Game. Then we're going to go ahead and make sure it's in the location that you want. You're going to go ahead and select the cloud organization. I'm just going to use my regular one here. You don't need one if you don't want one. I'm going to deselect Connect to Unity Cloud and then go ahead and select Create Project. Let's let that load. Alright, looks like my project loaded up. Perfect. Let's go ahead and add the new folders now. So in the Assets folder right here at the very top one, we're going to go ahead and add some more. We currently have a Scenes one here, which has our current sample scene, as you can tell. But we're going to go back to the main one here and create a couple ones, alright? So we're going to right click, we're going to go all the way up to Create, then we're going to go to Folder, okay? Once we click on that, we can give it a name. I'm going to call this one Art, capital A-R-T, there we go. I'm going to right click again, we're going to create another one this time. We're going to call this one Prefabs, which will be for our reusable game objects. I'm going to right click here, go up to Create, go up to Folder, we're going to call this one Scripts. Awesome. And then we're going to create one more for animations, alright? Right click, go to Create, go to Folder, and then Animations. Awesome. Alright, looking good so far. Now let's go ahead and adjust the screen size. Currently we have a rectangle, but for our game it's going to be more of a mobile type, so we need to make that a tall rectangle, alright? So let's go ahead and go to Game right up here. Then from here, we're going to go ahead and select the type that we want. So I currently have one 9/16 aspect, which gives us this one here. Now if you don't already have one with this kind of size, then you can add one right over here. Simply make sure you change the type to aspect ratio, and then of course enter 9 for X and then 16 for Y. Alright, click OK. You can even give it a name. We could give it a name of like phone. Go ahead and hit OK, and there you go. Awesome. Alright, so far so good. Alright, so in this section we're going to go ahead and go over all the imports for our game. We're going to start off downloading the free assets pack from megacrash.itch.io/flappybirdAssets. I will add the link in the description. We're also going to go ahead and unzip it by right clicking and hitting extract all, then drag and drop it into our project. Then we're going to go ahead and size and crop everything for our game. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, so this is where you're going to download the free assets pack. Again, it's megacrash.itch.io/flappybirdAssets. I will add the link in the description. Make sure to download this. And remember, once you download it though, go ahead, right click on it, and select extract all, okay? Before you drag and drop it into our project, you have to extract the zip, okay? Awesome. Alright, so I've already extracted all the art and then dragged and dropped it into my art folder. Alright, selecting into my art folder, I have this Flappy Bird Assets pack now. Make sure you have this in here already. Once you do, let's go ahead and grab everything we're going to be using and put it at the top of the art folder, okay? So I'm going to click into it until we get to this part here where we have the background, player tiles, and then a couple demos. So we're going to be grabbing everything we want. I'm going to click into the background first. I'm going to be using this specific background right here, this light blue one. So let's go ahead and take that and drag it back into the art folder right over here. Awesome. Let's go back one step. Let's go into the player one now. And let's use, I think it's in the bird one. Nope, it's in the other one. The style bird 2. You can use the other one if you want. I just think this one matches the game a little better. I'm going to pick the 3 types of birds we're going to be using throughout the game. I'm going to use the yellow one, the blue one, and the red one. So I'm going to go ahead and take the yellow one first, put it in the top of the art folder. Take the blue one, the red one, and that should be good. Alright, I'm going to go back again. I'm going to go into the tiles now over here. I'm going to select the tile set 1, and this is going to have the pipes and the tiles we're going to be using. So I'm actually going to select just the pipes one and then also just the ground one. So let's go ahead and take that, put it in the top of the art folder, and also the tiles one. I don't want this one here just because the scaling is going to be kind of messed up, so make sure you have both those other ones, alright? Awesome. Let's go back to the art folder, make sure everything's there. We should have one background, 3 types of birds, the pipes, and also the tile set. Awesome. So far so good. Alright, let's go ahead and get started cropping and sizing our images. Let's start off with the background one right here. Let's select background and go to the inspector on the right. Now we're going to set a couple things here. Starting off with the sprite mode, we need to make sure that is set at single because it's one individual image. Then we're going to set the pixels per unit. So this entire set is 16 by 16, but because the background's a little bigger, I'm going to set this one at 64. I find that that has the best ratio. So keep that one at 64 there. Awesome. The next setting we're going to set is going to be the filter mode, okay? Currently it's set to this, binary, but we're going to actually set it to point. And the reason why we're setting it to point is because it makes the pixel points a lot more clear and less blurred out, all right? That's why we want that, okay? Next thing we're going to set is going to be the compression, okay? Currently it's set at normal quality. We're actually going to set that at none because we don't want anything to blur in together, all right? We want to keep it exactly how it is. That's why we're doing it like that, okay? Awesome. Then go ahead and hit the apply on the bottom right. Awesome. All right, next up, we're going to go ahead and do the yellow bird. Let's select that there. This one's going to be a little different. We're going to make sure this sprite mode on this one here is going to be set to multiple because there's going to be multiple images in there. We're also going to set the pixels per unit to 16 for this one. All right. We are, though, going to set that filter mode to point as well because it's going to be also a pixel point. Then we're going to set the compression instead of normal quality to none as well. All right. Make sure to hit apply there. Then what we're going to want to do is select this sprite editor, okay? That's going to open up this page here, and then we need to make sure things are sliced individually, all right? Now mine looks like it's already sliced, but if yours is not, go ahead to this little slice here on the top left, change it from automatic to grid by cell size, okay? Then you can select an X and Y value, such as X value of 16 and Y value of 16. Then go ahead to that slice, perfect, select somewhere else, and then click the apply on the top right, okay? Awesome. Once you hit that, we can close it, and then you can open up the bird. There you go. You have all your 4 images perfectly sliced and formatted. Awesome. All right, let's do the next one now. Let's go ahead, make sure the sprite mode is set to multiple. Make sure the pixels per unit is set to 16. Go all the way down to filter mode, set that to point. And then again, remember the compression, we have to set that to none. Go ahead, hit apply. Go to the sprite editor. Let's go to slice. Make sure it is 16 by 16. Go ahead, slice that, perfect. Hit apply, awesome, close that. Let's make sure it worked, there we go. All right, let's do the red bird now. Let's go ahead, set that to multiple as well. Pixels per unit, 16. Filter mode, to point. Compression, to none, hit apply. Go to sprite editor. Make sure we have the slice of 16 and 16, it might be matching the last one. Let's hit slice as well, perfect. Go to apply, awesome. Close that. Let's make sure we got all 4. Looks like it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and do the next one. We're actually not going to do the pipes next. We're going to do the tile one because it's going to be exactly the same as the birds. So let's go ahead and make that multiple as well. It's going to be 16 for the pixels per unit. Filter mode again. We're going to do point and then compression set to none. All right, go to sprite editor. Actually, don't forget to apply and then go to sprite editor. Awesome. All right, let's go to slice. Again, 16 by 16. And it should be sliced perfectly just like this. Awesome. Go ahead, hit slice, hit apply, and there you go. Awesome. This one's going to be a little big when you open it up, but we have everything sliced perfectly. All right, now let's go ahead and do the pipes. Let's go ahead and select pipes. Again, we're going to do multiple. Pixels per unit, 16. Filter mode, point. Compression, we're going to set that to none. We're going to go to, don't forget to apply, and then go to sprite editor. All right, there we go. Let's go to slice. Now this one's going to be a little different because as you can tell, it's going to be slicing our pipes into multiple tiles, and we don't really want that. We want to do a little bigger, so let's do 32 by 32, and that should be good because remember, we're only going to be using 2 parts of our pipe. We're going to be using this part here on the top and this part here on the bottom, okay? We don't actually need the closing area because in the game view, we're only going to be seeing these 2 parts, okay? So that's why I'm doing the 32 by 32, all right? So make sure you have that, hit slice, hit apply, and there we go. Let's go ahead, open it up, make sure we have the ones we want. The top ones and the bottom ones, awesome. All right, perfect. So far, so good. All right, in this section, we're gonna go ahead and set all the camera settings. we're going to start off adding a pixel perfect camera, which is great to use whenever you have any art using pixels. From there, we're going to set it to best fit the game. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. First thing we're going to do is we're going to select our main camera right over here on the left. All right, from here, we're going to go ahead, scroll to the bottom of Add Component. We're going to go ahead and set our pixel perfect camera, so make sure to add that. All right, it should already be enabled once you add it. Now we need to set some of the settings for it. The first thing is going to be asking for the pixels per unit, and if you remember, most of our pixels that we're going to be adding is going to be a 16 by 16, so let's add 16 there. From there, we also have to give it a reference revolution size of X and Y. Now I found the best values for that, for the X value, is going to be 132, and then for the Y value, it's going to be 234, all right? You can see this change in the scene view with these green boxes, as you can tell. It's still a little big, so we have to keep editing it. Another thing we're going to set is going to be the crop of frame X and Y. So let's go ahead and enable both of those. Awesome. And then last but not least, we want to use the stretch tool. So make sure that's selected as well. All right. So all this is going to do is basically help us make sure that we're viewing our pixels correctly. Okay. Now we can go ahead and select one more thing. This is going to be in the game view. So go ahead into game view, go to where our screen size is. And we want to deselect this low resolution aspect ratios, okay? Make sure that's deselected. That just helps it get to the highest rate that we want to see our objects in, okay? So make sure that's there. And we can test it out simply by going ahead and dragging and dropping an object in our screen. So I'm going to open up this one here, drag and drop it right over there. Awesome. And if you go to game view now, there you go. See how the image looks very perfect? There's no pixels that are joining together, no blurriness. It looks exactly like we want it. Awesome. All right, I'm going to go ahead and delete that bird real quick. We'll add it in later. All right, so far so good. All right, in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the background. We're going to start off creating the sky background with an animation. Then we're going to go ahead and make a ground background with animation. And then last but not least, we're going to ensure all the scaling is set properly. Let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Let's create the background first. That's going to be this blue little scene here. Now one thing to note is we actually need to select it before we place it, and we need to change that pixels per unit back to 16. Reason being is because we set our pixel camera to 16 as well, and that needs to match up with all the sprites inside of our current game, okay? So let's save that, make sure that's set to 16. It should match up with the rest of them as well. All right, now let's go ahead and go into the scene view. Let's go ahead and drag and drop our sprite into here. All right, I'm going to place it somewhere about there just so it's pretty much set. Maybe I can lower it down a little bit. Let's do something like that, okay? It doesn't need to be perfect. As long as we got a little bit of the blue, I'm happy with that, okay? Now we could lower it a little more just so we have a little bit, but that's completely up to you. I think this will be good for what we got. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and back up a little bit. We're going to change the name. Currently the name is set to background 2. Because we're not having multiple backgrounds, that might get confusing, so let's just keep it at background, okay? Awesome. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and set its position. And I think a good starting position for this background is going to be slightly to the left, right over here. What we want to do is set that camera line right over here to this first little corner part, okay? So let's go ahead and make sure that's matched up. I know it's a little small. I'm going to zoom in more. It's going to be set to that part right there, okay? Now my current position of this is of course 4.88, so you could also match it up there as well, and the Y value of 2.59, okay? So make sure that's set. Awesome. Now the next thing we're going to do is of course give it an animation so we can have it in a looping effect. So let's go ahead and Control D on this. Now for background 1 right over here, I'm simply going to drag it over here just so it's matching up with the rest of the background. Doesn't need to be perfect as long as we don't have a corner piece like a little cut off edge in between. So make sure they are at least overlapping a little bit, just like that. Awesome. All right, now that we have both our images here, we need to make it one game object so we can move only one of them. How to do that? Simply what we're going to do is drag and drop that duplication of the background into the original one. Perfect. So now whenever we move this main one here, it's going to move both of them. Awesome. All right, so now selecting the main one, the background, let's give it an animation. Now go ahead and select your animation tab. If you don't have the animation tabs open, you can open them up by going to the window right up here, scrolling down to animation and selecting animation and animator, okay? And then you can drag and drop them into here. All right, I already have mine open. Let's go ahead and create an animation for this. Now make sure you are in the animations folder so we can keep things organized. If you're not, go ahead, select the assets one, and then from here you can select whichever one you want to save it in, such as animations. Awesome. Let's give this a name. I'm going to call it background anim. Let's go ahead, hit save. Alright, perfect. Now we need to set where we want this animation to come into effect. Now I want this to be a very slow animation, so I'm actually going to back this up all the way until we get to like 20 seconds, okay? Because I want it to loop every 20 seconds. So let's go ahead and make sure it's on 20, or at least close enough. There we go. Alright, now from there I'm going to hit this little preview red button here, and now what we can do is make whatever that point be whatever we want with the animation, okay? So I'm going to drag my animation all the way to the same spot, just on the other image. We'll zoom in once we get close. Alright, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I think I got it pretty close. Might need to add a couple more. I'm going to slide this over. Might be a little sensitive, so I might need to do it manually. Alright, I'll add a little bit more here. Looks like the negative 11.08 is not enough, so what if I do 1? Nope. Let's try maybe 7. Whoops, or 0.7, I think that's what it was. 0.7. And there we go, 0.7 works, awesome. So set the time of 20 seconds at X value of negative 11.07, okay? Awesome. All right, I'm gonna scoot back over here. Next thing we need to do is we need to highlight both animations. So I'm gonna go ahead and drag across both of these just so I can capture both of them. I'm gonna right click, and we're going to set this to auto. Now why are we setting it to auto? Is because we want it to basically automatically reset over time. We don't want it to slow down and speed up, or maybe initiate it right when it gets to it. So this is the smoothest way we can get it, by using the auto one. Okay, awesome. Once here, we can test it out. Let's go to the game view, and let's go ahead and hit play, and there you go. It's a nice smooth automation. Awesome, I like it. All right, let's go back to scene view. Let's stop the play. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's turn off the red button, and there we go. Alright, so far so good. We got the background set up. I like it. Now we're going to do the tile set one next. Alright, let's get started with the next one. That's going to be for the ground. That's going to be this one right over here. Now everything should be set on it correctly. Now what we want to do is we want to create the actual ground part. So let's go ahead and open it up. And I'm simply going to use this one right here with just the top green and then the below brown. Let's go ahead and drag and drop that in. Alright, let's put it somewhere about there. And now we need to create the actual ground one, so we need to Control D until we get all the way across. So let's go ahead and rename this first. I'm going to call this one just ground. Enter. Alright, then let's go ahead and Control D. And I'm going to simply drag and drop this one inside of it so we can keep everything inside the main ground one. I'm going to Control and then move my mouse over and make sure we are linking it together. It should be just like that. You can see the game view of it. Awesome. Let's do it again. I'm going to make sure I'm selecting this one here. Control D. I'm going to drag it over, make sure it's still connecting. Control D, dragging over. Control D, dragging over, while still holding Control. Control D, dragging over. Awesome. All right, perfect. So now we have a nice little ground part for our map. I like it. Now what we could do is readjust it a little bit. I think it's a little low. I kind of want to see the little bottom brown part. So let's go ahead and take the main one and move it up just a little bit. Doesn't need to be perfect, just so we can see that lower part. I think it looks nicer. Awesome. All right. Looking good. Let's go back to scene. Alright, now we need to, of course, make another one because we want it in the same kind of looping effect. So let's go ahead and I'm going to close that. I'm going to Control D the main one. And simply enough, I'm just going to, while holding Control, move it over here and get it so it's linking up. Make sure it looks adjusted correctly. Awesome. Alright, I like it. Now that we have the ground one, let's attach that also into the same ground because we want it to be one single object. Awesome. Alright. Now we got to go ahead and give it an animation just like we did with the background. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's go to our animation. Let's go ahead and make sure we are selecting ground. Let's create. Let's call this ground anim, capital A. Make sure we're saving in the animations folder. Awesome. Save that. All right. Now that we got that there, we need to do the same thing. Pick a time for it. Let's do this one at like 5 seconds because I want the ground speed to be moving a little bit faster than, of course, the background speed. So let's go ahead and make that 5 seconds. Right over there. We might speed it up, but for now I think this will look good. Let's go ahead, red button it. Now we got to remember which part it is, and I think it's in between. Yep, it's in between the two right there before the little one. So I think, oh no, in between the one right before the third one. So it should be like right there for whenever we get to it. All right, so let's go ahead and move it over. until we get to basically a similar spot, which should be, I think, over there. Something like that, if I remember. Let's go ahead and see how that looks in game view. All right, well actually what we need to do also is of course make it smooth. So let's go ahead and highlight both of these, right click, set that to auto. Awesome. All right, let's go into the game view. Let's hit play and let's just make sure it's resetting properly so we don't notice it. Looks good. Yep, I like it. Doesn't look like it's glitching out. Looks like it's very smooth going across. Awesome. All right, perfect. Let's go ahead and the play, go back to the beginning, go back to scene, turn off the red button. Awesome. Let's go ahead and select back to our project. Let's go back to the main folder, and there we go. Awesome. I'm going to back up a little bit. All right. Awesome. So far, so good. And don't forget, throughout this process, always make sure to save just in case something happens, like your computer restarts. Always make sure to hit the save button and also the save project. All right. Looking good. So far, so good. Alright, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the main menu. We're going to start off creating a main menu canvas, then we're going to add a couple things to it, such as a title and high score text, and also a couple buttons for play game and shop. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Alright, let's get started creating the main menu. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to right click over here. We're going to go all the way down to UI, and we're going to create a canvas specific for the main menu. Okay, awesome. So make sure that canvas is there. Perfect. Let's rename it. So let's call it canvas main menu. Awesome. Next thing we're going to do is set a couple settings in the canvas, starting off with the render mode right here. We want to set that to screen space camera. Now if we go ahead, we can see that the canvas is now the same size as the screen, which is nice. One thing we do need to do is set the actual camera, so let's go ahead and drag and drop that in over there. Perfect. Awesome. From there we have one more setting to set. We are going to set the UI scale mode to scale with screen size. That's basically going to help scale it for all different devices that use this, different screen sizes. Maybe if it's on a mobile or desktop, it'll scale it directly to what it should be. All right, awesome. Now that we have this, let's go ahead and add some things to the canvas main menu. Let's right click. Let's go all the way down to UI again. Let's go to text. Now it's going to ask you to import the essentials. Go ahead and select that. You don't need to do this one on the bottom. Just this one here should be enough. Might take a second to load. Once that loads, we can go ahead and close that out. Awesome. All right, if we go into game view, we can see the text. Well, currently we can't because it's blending in with the background. Let's go ahead and change that. So currently it's white. If we go down there, it should be black. Now we should be able to see it. Let's go ahead and find out where it is. We might need to move it up a little bit. All right. Now, why is it still hidden? That's because the layering is set incorrectly. Okay, so we need to set the canvas of the main menu layering up all the way so it's in front of all the objects in the game. So I'm going to simply set this one here to 10. It's currently set to 0 right now. So we set that to 10. We can now go ahead and see our text. Awesome. So I hit game view, and there we go. Now it's a little small currently. So if we want to go ahead and make that a little bigger, we can. Let's go back into the text. Let's go ahead and make the font size something like, let's see what 25 looks like. Still a little small. Let's go ahead and make that something like 50. Still think it's a little small for the title of our text. I might do actually all the way to 100. And there we go. Awesome. I might also make it bold so it's a little bigger. As you can tell though, its scaling is wrong a little bit. So let's go to the scene view and let's set the scale for it. So I'm going to use that rectangle button right over here. And I'm going to simply stretch that out until we can get both of it on the same line. I'm also going to set it to either side of the map. There we go. Now a couple settings we can do for the text. We can go ahead and make it centered right over here. We can center it there and center it in the middle of the box. Oop, not that one, the one below it. There we go. Awesome. Perfect. All right, next thing we're going to do is actually give it some borders. So I'm going to keep it white on for the color, but I'm going to give it a black background for it. So let's go ahead and add that. Let's give it that background outline. I'm going to increase this. Let's see, I might do 0.4 for that. So 0.4 would be a good one. And then we can go ahead and dilate it a little bit. Let's do 0.2 for this. Maybe a little more. I think that looks pretty good. Let's see how that looks in game view. Awesome. All right, let's go back to scene. Maybe I might do a little more. I think it could do maybe a 4 or 5. There we go. Awesome. All right, let's make this a little bigger. Let's scroll to where we want it. There we go, over here. Let's give it the title of the game though. I'm going to call this Flappy Bird. All right. Then from there, we can simply go ahead and increase it a little bit more. Maybe I'll do 120 for the title, just so it looks a little bigger. Awesome. See how that looks? Awesome. I like it. All right, so far so good. We have the title text. Let's also make sure we name it title text. So I'm going to scroll up to the top. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that there and put title or text title, just like that. Awesome. All right, let's go ahead and do the next part. Let's create the high score text. So let's right click, duplicate that. I'm simply going to move that down a little bit. So I'm going to take that Y value and simply drag it a little bit till we get to something like there. Awesome. Now what I'm going to do is simply change this here. Instead of Flappy Bird, I'm going to put high score. And we can make this a lot smaller. So let's go ahead and make it a lot smaller. Let's do something like 65. And I'm actually going to make the color this time of this to yellow. So let's make it like a yellow like that. Awesome. Now that we have a high score, we need a number to represent the actual score below it. So let's go ahead first, change the name of this one. So instead of title, this is going to be HS for high score. Let's go ahead and duplicate this one more time. Let's drag it down right below it, somewhere about there. Let's change this text of it to a 0. See how that looks in game view. I like it. Maybe a little lower. There we go. Let's also change the name of it. We're going to change that to text score. Oops. There we go. Awesome. Perfect. So now we have the title, we have the high score text. Now we just need the buttons, okay? And of course the bird as well. Let's go back to scene. So let's go ahead now and we'll leave that there. Let's scroll down a little bit. Let's go ahead and right click on our canvas again. We're going to go down to UI. Let's go to button. All right, now we're going to make 2 buttons for this. I'm going to make this button a little bigger. Let's use that rectangle tool again and simply do something like that. Let's go ahead inside of the text. Oops, zoomed out a little bit. Let's make sure we set this to the right size. I'm going to do, let's see what we could do. Let's see how 65 looks. That might be too big, but it might be good enough. That looks pretty good. Awesome. Should be the same size as the score text over there. Let's go ahead and change this to play game. Play game. Awesome. Next thing we can do also is we can make the text white. I'm going to do that for this. All right. And we can change the actual button color to maybe one of these light blue colors to match. Let's do that as well. I'm going to take that light blue color and just simply take the color there. Perfect. All right, we can use that little tool there to match different colors on the game to match whatever item we're changing. All right. So now one more thing I want to do is I want to add an outline around my button, and we currently don't have an option to do that here, so we're going to have to add basically an image to do that for us. So let's go ahead and right click on canvas again. Let's go down to UI. Let's go to image, and I'm simply going to put this behind the button for now. I'm not putting it inside of it, just simply right there. I'm going to go ahead and let's center it to the button. So I'm going to go ahead and move it over here and then lower it a little bit, just so it's pretty centered to the button. Let's go ahead now and increase the size a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and drag this one a little bit over, somewhere like there. And then above, I'm going to stretch it out a little bit as well. We might need to readjust it a little bit, just so it's centered perfectly on it. I like that, but we need to decrease the X value. Something like, I think that would be good. We might need to move it over just a little bit. And there we go, awesome. And I want to make that background of it. Let's make the background color black. All right, let's see how that looks. I like it. We can make the text a little bigger, I think. So let's go into the text. Let's change that text to, let's do 75 and see how that looks. I like it. Let's see how that looks there. Okay, we can actually dilate it a little bit. I don't like how the white is super thin. So I wonder if we go down here. Let's go ahead and dial it a little more. Let's do 0.4 as well. This is also going to change our other ones, but I think it'll be fine. Let's see how that looks in game. And perfect. I like that a little bit. Looks like it's a little too much. That's why we're getting this shadow. So let's go back to 2 and just increase it by maybe 5. There we go. Awesome. All right, I like that. Let's go back to scene view. Now it looks like the text is not centered all the way here, so let's scroll down a little bit, or scroll up. Looks like we could move it up a little bit with that top part there, which would center a little better on the button. Let's go to game view, and there we go. Awesome. Looks like we can go a little bit more. I don't like how the Y is touching the bottom part, so let's go ahead and just simply move it up a little bit. Looks like it doesn't like that, so we move it up a little bit. We might need to move this back to middle. Let's see how that looks. Are we touching? No, we're not, but I think we could go a little bit bigger, or we could just decrease the size of the font. Let's do that instead. So let's change that to 70 this time, and there we go. Let's go back to game. Perfect. See how it's like matched in the middle now? I like that better. Awesome. All right, let's zoom back out over here. Let's go ahead and put the button now inside of that image we just created. We can go ahead and call this image B play. All right, let's go ahead and drag and drop this into there. Perfect. Let's center out the button, so make that X value for the button equals 0. Whoops, not the button. We actually need to make it the top button right there. I'm going to change that. There we go. Perfect. All right, image B, play. Let's do a copy for this. Control D and move it down a little bit so we can have one for the store button now. Let's go ahead, change the name. Instead of B play, we're going to change that to B shop. There we go. Let's go ahead and open that button up. Open the button inside of it. Let's go ahead and go to the text and change that text to shop, capital S. Awesome. All right, let's see how that looks. Let's back it up. And perfect. So we have the main title, we have the high score, and we also have the 2 buttons as well. Perfect. Looking good so far. All right, one more thing we're going to add to the main menu screen is going to be a simple bird right in here that's going to represent which player we're currently using. So let's go ahead and add that. To do that, we're actually going to add an image as well. So let's right click, let's go down to UI again. Let's go to image at the top, and there we go. Awesome. So I'm going to take that image and I'm simply going to move it up. Make sure we're in scene view to do this so we can see what we're doing a little better. Let's move it up to here. I just want the bird somewhere right there. And we might actually move the buttons down a little lower also so we have more room for the bird. So let's go ahead and select both those buttons. Select the first one and then hold down Control and select the one below it. And then we can move both at the same time. Okay, awesome. Move that down a little bit. Perfect. All right, let's go back to the image we just created. Let's change that. Let's call this image birds. All right. And what we're going to do is we're actually going to make the image birds one invisible. We're just going to have this as a placeholder. So I'm actually going to remove the sprite. So let's go ahead and remove component so we don't have a sprite for it at all. And then in the image birds, we're going to right click and we're going to create another image inside of that. Let's go ahead and do that. Perfect. This one's going to be image, let's call it bird, Y for yellow. Okay. And then we're going to need a couple more for each one. So we can go ahead and make this one first, and then we can go ahead and add the rest of them. So let's go into our art folder. Let's close the one we had for the ground. Let's go ahead and open up the one for the yellow bird. Make sure we're selecting the inner one right here, image bird Y for yellow. Let's go ahead, drag and drop it into its sprite, and there we go. Awesome. So now we have an image bird Y. So if we go to game view, we can see the little bird. All right, let's go increase the size a little bit though. So let's select image bird Y. And I'm simply going to make this, let's see how 2 and 2 looks. It might be too big, but it also might be perfect. I think that looks pretty good. Let's move that down a little bit though, so it's kind of in the middle. Awesome. All right, now we need the other colors for the birds. So let's go ahead back to scene. Let's Control D on image bird Y and do image bird R for red. So let's do a capital R right there. And then simply close that and open this up. Let's drag and drop the red bird in there to the source image. There we go. Perfect. Awesome. Let's do one more now for the blue bird. Control D. Change the name. This one's going to be image bird capital B for blue. Let's go ahead, open that one up, and drag and drop it into the source image. Perfect. All right, perfect. So now we have all the different colors of the birds. And since at the beginning of the game we only want to have the yellow one, let's go ahead and turn off the image bird R and image bird B. So I'm going to go ahead and disable each of those. And so far so good. So we should currently have something that looks just like this. Awesome. All right, looking good. All right, so in this section, we're going to go ahead and create the shop. we're going to start off creating the shop canvas. Then we're going to add a title and a coin text counter for it as well. Then we're going to go ahead and add the buttons for unlocking the birds and selecting the birds. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's go ahead and get started. So what we're going to do first is we're going to close the canvas we were just working on for the main menu. We're going to go ahead, right click, we're going to duplicate it. So now we have another one with just the one after it. Let's go ahead and rename this one. Let's go ahead and name this one shop, canvas shop. There we go. Awesome. Let's go ahead and turn off the one in the back. There we go, which is going to be the original main menu one. Now let's open up the canvas shop, which is a complete copy of the one we just made. We're simply going to change a couple things. For the title text, let's go ahead and change that to store, or shop, I guess. We do shop. All right. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to change the high score to coin. We could do, coins with an S. There we go. Let's also change the name of it as well. We could change that to coins, text coins. There we go. Awesome. For the text score, we could change the name to text coin. All right, and then we can keep it as 0 as well. Awesome. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and let's remove one of the buttons. We don't need both of these. So for the button shop, let's go ahead and delete that one. We should only have the play game one. Now we're going to make this one into what we want for setting the bird, and then we'll add the lock ones on top of them. Okay, so for this one, let's open it up and open up the button. Let's go ahead and change the text first to set. Okay, awesome. Now I'm going to actually take that text and I'm going to put it outside of the button for now. All right, still inside of the image B play, but let's go ahead and shrink this. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make this one go a little smaller. And actually, you know, a faster way to do this as well, let's take the text out of the image B play and put it right next to the coin text. We can shrink it from here. Okay, so let's go to scene. Let's use that rectangle tool, and let's go ahead and just shrink it like that. And then let's also shrink the button text as well. Make sure we recenter that though with the X value, so set that back to 0. We might need to stretch this out a little bit more. Let's go ahead and just make sure it looks pretty good so far. Let's go back to game view, see how that looks. Maybe we need to stretch it a little bit more. So I'm going to increase the X scale a little bit. And I might move it over just a tiny bit. Let's make that 0 again. Maybe a little bit bigger. Let's go ahead and make that 2.5. And perfect. Awesome. All right, now we can go ahead and take that text and put it back into the button. Let's go ahead and make sure we center the text as well. So I'm going to center that back up. There we go. Awesome. So now we have set for that. Perfect. Let's change the name of this button. So image B play. Let's do image B. Let's call this set, capital S, Y for yellow. Awesome. Let's put this in the right spot now. So this one here, I want to simply move it over to the left. So let's go ahead and I'm going to make this negative. Let's see what 170 looks like. Maybe a little bit more than that. Let's do 190. Let's just do 210 instead. How does that look? Maybe a little bit more. Let's do 230. So negative 230. Perfect. All right, awesome. I like that. And what else we could do? We could lower it a little bit. Let's go ahead and just move it down a little bit. Somewhere about like there. Perfect. Maybe a little higher than that. That's okay. All right, we'll just keep that for now. All right, now we need, of course, 3 other ones of this. So let's go ahead, Control D. And for this one, let's change the name. Let's change that to R instead of the Y one. It's for the red bird. Let's make that X position of the button. Let's set that to 0. All right, let's make another one now for the blue one. Control D. Let's go ahead, make that one B. Perfect. Let's go ahead and set this one now to positive 230. And perfect. Awesome. All right, looking good. So now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to add a lock button above each one. And to do that very easily, we can just go ahead and select one, such as the red one. Let's go ahead and Control D on it. We have a new button. I'm going to put this in front of the blue button. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add just the word lock after R. Let's go ahead, add that there. Perfect. All right, awesome. let's go ahead now, and what we're going to do is open that lock button up, and we're going to change the actual text inside of it. Let's change that simply to, let's just call it 5 because it's going to cost 5 coins for that one. And then we're also going to change the color of this button to red. All right, just like that. Awesome. All right, perfect. Now we need to do one for the blue button one. All right, so let's go ahead, Control D on the blue button one. I'm going to put it right below the red lock. Let's go ahead, add the word lock to it over here. Let's go ahead, add lock there. There we go. Awesome. Let's go ahead, hit enter. Perfect. All right, now we need to do the same thing. Let's open it up. Let's change the color to red. Awesome. If you want it to be the exact same color of red as the other one, simply we can click on the other button and we can copy its value down, which is going to be right here, the hexadecimal. We can copy that. I'm going to close that, go back to the other one, and just simply paste that in right there. Awesome. All right. Next thing we're going to do, of course, is give it a number value. So I'm going to change that value. Let's change that to, this one will be 10 coins, okay? Awesome. All right, perfect. Now we have the lock buttons and all the set buttons. Let's close all these up. Now we need the actual birds to display. So simply we can just move the birds that we already have. So let's go ahead and move this bird over there. Let's go ahead and put him at negative, what was it, 230? All right, awesome. Let's go ahead and lower it down a little bit though. Let's do, yeah, negative 76.3. Now for the same thing, let's enable all these just so we can see them all. And we will actually keep them all enabled because during the shop we can select them. It's not actually showing which one we set. So let's go ahead to this one and copy the same values as this one. So negative 230 was the X value. Actually, this one's going to stay at 0 because it's in the middle. But then that Y value though is going to be the same. Let's copy that. Put that in for the red bird. There we go. All right, let's do that same thing for the blue bird. Let's put that Y value in. And then I think it was 230, so just keep it at positive 230 for that one. Awesome. All right, perfect. And if you recall from the preview, what we're going to be doing is simply having the birds here, and then once we have the blue buttons, it's going to hit set, go back to the main menu, and show the bird, and we can play. All right, we're going to add some code in to add the functionality in a minute. All right, let's go ahead and disable the canvas shop, and then re-enable the canvas main menu. Awesome. Looks like though we're missing our text here. So let's go ahead and see what we did. Let's make sure the text is up in the front. Might be a issue with the display. Shop currently, oh, I wonder if that's because we changed all of the values down here. So let's go ahead and see what we did there. All right, so it looks like the text came back. I just had to hit play and then unplay. But I noticed one thing is our scaling is a little messed up. If you go ahead and hit play currently, we're going to be a little bit too much to the bottom and the left. So let's go ahead and fix that real quick. So simply if we go ahead and go into our main camera, we just want to readjust our camera size. And the reason why it's doing that is, as you can tell, it currently has this green box on the outer side. So we simply need to move that over to the correct position. All right, so let's use the move tool. And simply enough, I'm just going to lift it up till we get a similar position. And I'm going to move it over there. And if you remember, we were on that one part. I think it was that part right about there. All right, so let's go ahead now and hit play, and we should be looking good. All right, perfect. I like it. We have the animation at the bottom, and we have the animation over here. Looks like this one, though, is a little too short, so we might need to fix that animation real quick. Let's go ahead and fix that up. Simply what we can do is we can just add more onto the left over here. So let's go ahead and select our ground, and then select the lowest ground level one here. And let's go ahead, Control D, and just add a couple more. Control D, and Control D. Awesome. Let's go ahead and hit play again, see how that looks. Should be looking a lot better. Let's see if the ground can repeat. I think it is. Awesome. All right. So far, so good. All right. If you are enjoying the course and you would like to continue, you must become a member of Red Fool's Academy at redfoolstudio.com/academy. You will not only get access to this course, but all of our premium courses. On your first sign up, you get 7 days free, money back guaranteed. See you in the lectures.